I'm in the kitchen, I'm thinking easy, fast, affordable. Affordable being the key in all those ingredients. Now, I'm not one given to spending too much time in the kitchen. That's if I'm in the kitchen. So I need recipes that take me about 5 minutes. So here I've got a Hasselback, potatoes, that'll be stuffed. And then I'll be having some beef olives, which will pair perfectly with my potatoes. And then just for a starter, something fun, something the kids will love, and I know the adults will love as well, some lollipops. And I know you're asking, what on earth is lollipops doing in a menu? But yeah, these are not sweets. This is some meatballs wrapped perfectly in some puff pastry and then baked for a delicious starter. So just to get this off, I always start with the thing that takes the longest to cook, which is my meat in this case. So I've got a beautiful cut of steak. Gosh, this looks beautiful. It's so thin, it's tender. You know, this is a sort of meat when you put on the stove, it takes about 5 minutes. But I just want to flatten it a bit more. So, plastic, any plastic in the house. This is home cooking. It has to be rustic. It has to be fun. Hey, what we have is what I always recommend. So in here, I've got my wooden spoon. So yeah, give it a good beating. This is fun. It's almost like distressing myself. So yeah. So if you've got somebody you're angry with, I think this is the perfect menu for you. And then when you're angry and then you just... I hope that's not somebody's face, but just the meat. Okay, that's fine. I think it's beautiful and flat. Now, you just need to check it if it's the same width throughout. So you've got a thinner piece here. So I think I need to just work on the top. Traditionally, there's an item that's used to do all this. So that's perfect. So I'll put this aside and then I'll tell you how I'll just fix this all up. Okay, that goes aside. Perfect. Now I've got a thin piece of meat. With me here, some breadcrumbs. I've got some garlic. I'll put in a bit of garlic in my breadcrumbs. Why? I've got just a touch of means. You don't need a lot. And if you don't have extra means, just do away with it. If you've got vegetables, use those. If you've got bread and leftover bread or bread that's been in the house for a couple of days, that's even perfect. More perfect. Okay. I think my pan is heated through. Let me just put it aside for a sec. While I do with my filet, in here I'll add some peppers. Not too much. I don't want the peppers to sort of drown the flavor of the meat because this is a tender steak, a tender beef. It needs to be beautiful. So not too much, but just to give it a flavor. Some green peppers. I was also thinking of using the red, but that might just be a tidbit too much for me. So I'll scrap it for now. But if you fancy peppers, why not? Go for it. Go for it. Some onion. Look, rough cuts. It doesn't even have to be so perfect, because if it's perfect, yeah, it can be boring. I mean, who's perfect? I encourage home cooks so that you can de-stress in the kitchen, the hubby, the kids in there. So don't be complicated. Don't beat up yourself. No. Practice. So now in goes the onion. Now, I'm giving it a good toss. I need a bit of oil so that it just binds all these ingredients together. Just a bit, not too much. You should always be light-handed with your oil always. I'll just do one for you to see. Your sausage, your meats. Right? Just in the center somewhere. Now, and then roll it up. Roll it, give it a good roll. So I've just rolled this together. Again, my filling, some sausage, peppers, Right, onto my other piece of steak. Now I'm going to roll it again. A tight roll. Just make sure you're doing it tightly. Then try to fold in the edges as much as you can. Then give it a good roll again. And then some thread. This is just nice white thread. Now carefully lift it up. Then tie it. Again, tie it. Then the opposite side, tying it. Because we do not want our meat to unroll when it's cooking. Now the second piece of thread, proper thread, around, just around. What we're trying to do is to make sure when we put it in the pot of oil, it doesn't separate again. So I was doing it across, now on the long side, a tight roll. On the long side, tight roll, tighten it, tighten it, tighten it, yeah. And then just tuck it in. Perfect. So in this pot, I've got some oil. It's been heating up. What I need to do first, just take my roll into the pot. The perfect sizzle. The perfect sizzle. Yeah. I need to brown this. I've just rolled my beef and I've been frying it. Let me just show you how that looks. A beautiful caramelization, beautiful golden color. Now it's time to turn it. Now that I've turned it and it's now cooking down on the other side, what I need to do is add in some peppers, some carrots if you like. If you're going to be using some onion, just anything. You know, cooking is about what you have. Don't stress. Okay. Some onion. That looks perfect. And then some spices. Remember, right at the beginning, I did not add some salt to my meat. Why? The moment you add salt to beef or any other cut of meat, it sort of drains out all the juices from it. So I wanted mine to remain beautiful and tender and juicy. So now I'm adding in the salt towards the end. So I added in some onion. I'm not tossing it, I'm not mixing it. I just sort of spread it around. Some spices, garlic, pepper, paprika, coriander. I've got some herbs. Paprika, what do you call it? Rosemary. Yeah, something like that. Right in there. Now remember, we added in the garlic inside our meat. So we want our sauce and our meat to have almost the same flavor. So again, some garlic. Perfect. So now I'll mix it. This is amazing. Definition of amazing is this. Okay, now some water. Hey, hey. Yeah. Who says you need a restaurant to have good food? This is good. This is good food here. Water, piece of meat, some peppers, onion, only. Get it. I'm adding in some more. Just to come up about a quarter way to your meat. Then I'm going to close this. Right, close this, have a glass of juice, and then come back in a minute. So I'm making some Hasselback potatoes. This is basically potatoes that are cut through until you almost reach the edge, the bottom edge of your potato, and then just stop, because when you cut it through, it then separates. So we'll cut it through just almost 3/4 of a way. I'm gonna stuff this with some cheese, peppers, add some spices, and then bake this. It's almost like a beautiful colored accordion. So I just took some potatoes, beautiful big potatoes. Allow 1 or 2 potatoes per person, and then just peel it off. And then when you peel this, boil it. In here, I've got my boiled potato. I've just pre-done this. What you need to do now is to take your peppers. I've got a red pepper. Now, I like the red because of the color. You can actually use the green or the yellow. It's still fine. But the red just gives me that pop of color that I look for when I'm cooking. You know, people eat with their eyes. The moment they see something beautiful, they just want to tuck in. Right, that goes aside. I've got some onion into rings. Yep, I know I just cut my onion with the shell. Why? Because now it's easy to just remove the outer piece. And then I remain with my center pieces. In here, I've got some beautiful herbs, some rosemary, some parsley. This smells beautiful. You can just grow this in your garden, and if you don't, just go into your supermarkets where they sell the soups right by there. You can get your packet of rosemary and then just remove it from the twigs. Just a rough chop. You know, when herbs are fresh from the garden, they're more powerful, more poignant than when you dry them and then you buy it. So just try to have small vegetable and herb gardens. This does not take too much space. Just a small container, even like this. Put some soil, your herbs. These are more flavorful than spices. This is why I love herbs. Now, in this bowl where I just put my herbs, I've got some paprika. I like the red smokiness of paprika. Right, now to assemble this. I need to assemble this. I'll take a bit of oil into my rosemary and paprika. Because I'll be using a brush, I'm just mixing that. Look at how beautiful this looks. Beautiful. Yep. Right. In goes the remaining. Okay. So, putting this aside, my potato. Right. So I've got my beautiful potatoes, and I'm just going to cut almost 3/4 of a way through. Now, if you cut them all the way through, they'll separate. We want them to be cut, but remain intact. You see, just like this. Now, I'm going to be stuffing my Hasselback. Traditionally done with a potato that's not peeled. Okay, in goes my first color. Beautiful, sort of yellow, golden yumminess. In goes. Next line, some white. I've got the white from the onion. I'm just stuffing in between the layers that I just opened up. Yep. The red from the pepper. If it's too big, it's okay to just cut it down. So I'll do this with the rest of my potatoes. Just continuing on with all the beautiful flavors and the colors. Right. Some red again. Just by the end. Let me just put this in the bowl so that it stays. So I've just stuffed my Hasselbacks, and now I've got some garlic, some paprika, some oil. I'm just going to oil my potatoes. They look beautiful already. Right. If you can see, they've got already that beautiful golden color. So when you put them in the oven now, just mind for them not to burn. Now the herbs will be getting in between all those pieces, the garlic. Just brush this on. And if you do not have a brush, you can actually take a small piece of clean paper and use that. Yeah. Now I've got a bit of cheese. Ooh, and some salt. Remember your seasoning always. some seasoning, and then some cheese. Yum, 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 yum. Just on top, not too much. And now on a 180-degree stove, cooker top, grill it, or in a microwave for about 10 minutes until all this cheese is melted and all those flavors have just become nice and golden. I've got my Hasselbacks in the oven. It's grilling perfectly. And now I've just decided to make a starter. And for my starter, we're making some lollipops. Now, this is a pie for those people who are not very good at baking but want something nice. It's so easy. Store-bought puff pastry. This is the pastry for the pies. You find it in the fridge section of your stores, just any supermarket. In here, I've got some mince, just some beautiful mince, nothing much. A bit of spices, barbecue, adding it in there, some salt. Now, when you're doing things like meatballs, burgers, you do not add in the salt if you're not already cooking your meatballs. Because if you do that, it will just dry it out. So the perfect thing will be adding the salt towards the end. But I'm just finishing this off and putting it in the oven so I can add in the salt. Salt, according to your taste. Okay, egg yolk to bind. The reason why I'm binding mine is because I need to use them immediately. But if you're going to be using it the next day, the proper thing to do is just take your meat, roll it into balls, put them in the fridge overnight for about 24 hours. They actually tighten beautifully. You don't need to add in anything else. Now, in with your hands. Yeah, you need to go in with your hands. Just mix this. When you're doing burgers, when you're doing meatballs, what you really need is the full fat, or maybe a 20-80%, 20% fat and 80% beef sort of mixture. That combination is perfect. Right, so you can see it's not too wet, hey? Okay, now I'll divide this into small balls. This is where the lollipop comes in. Beautiful balls, just a meatball, a regular meatball. Now when you're doing meatballs, when you're doing burgers, please do not compress them. They don't need to be too tight. They need a loosening. Don't go in there and squish it. No, lightly, very, very lightly. This is beautiful. I've got my hands dirty. I can play around in the kitchen. Yeah, don't be afraid of getting your hands dirty. Don't be afraid of doing the wrong thing. It's okay, really. It's okay. Just roll. If you're not a spicy person, just roll your meatballs just like that. Right. That's beautiful. That looks absolutely amazing. Right. So I'm going to rest these for about 20 minutes while I wash my hands, clean up the space, and I'll show you how to assemble it. Right, I enjoy just being in the kitchen. Easy, affordable. Remember, things that you find in your local store, the local store. You don't have to go far for it. And even your garden or your cupboards. Perfect. So here, just mince. And I've got my puff pastry. I'm going to cut it into strips. Just about an inch of thickness and width. Right, I'll cut the second one. I'll remove the edges so that you see perfectly what I'm trying to do here. Just this strip, just like a ribbon. Yep. So what do we do? Right, I'll take my toothpick, or if you're gonna be having some chopsticks, in goes your pastry, then in goes your, now I'm just sort of sandwiching them in between, but I'm not allowing it to cover the whole way through. And then goes my meatball again, a second one. just on top. We're layering it. It's almost like doing a kebab. Layering it. There it goes. It's just like a beautiful S, if you can see, an S sort of shape. And then when you put in your pastry, you take another meatball, then put it in. Again, the remainder of your pastry. There it goes. And remove the excess. You don't need that. Ha 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 ha! Success! Beautiful. Now I'll do a second one, just in case somebody comes in when I'm about to enjoy my meal. Okay, again, you take your chopsticks, a small incision, add your meatball. Now turn it over. Now when you turn it now, the meatball will come to the other side, to the opposite side, and then it comes in just like that. So easy, so easy. Things you can do with the kids. Allow the 5-year-olds, the 6-year-olds into the kitchen. They can do this easily. Right, top it up with your pastry again. Ah, this looks yum, 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 yum. Perfect. Now, I've got my pastry brush. I'm just going to be brushing my tin, the one that I'll use in the oven. Perfect. In goes my lollipops. Okay, fun. Right, now I just need to take another egg for an egg wash. Bake this at about 220, about 10 minutes again. Yeah, I'm brushing it with some egg so that it gives that beautiful golden color. That's the use of the egg. So when you bake it, it's beautiful, it's golden. And it needs to be on a very high heat, 200, 220 degrees for pastries. That's the perfect temperature. So going to the oven, putting this in, removing the Hasselbacks. Remember, these are just potatoes that we cut so thinly. Put in some spices, put in some peppers, some cheese. Bake that for about 10 minutes or so on a grill. Look at that. The red, the cheese, the yumminess, the goldenness. Ah, this is perfect home cooking. Affordable, simple, right, just for any kitchen. So this look beautiful. Right, I think they just need an encouragement. And we just give them a bit of encouragement to listen them up so that I can pick them up perfectly. Ooh, okay. And the second one. This is just puff pastry and some meatballs. I love it when things just come together. Look at this. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. Now I'll remove this to the side and istakabakunana nyama shisha. We love our meat. And then on my mother's side, danachkona mombe. They will not eat anything without the beef roll. So I've prepared some beef olives that I'm just going to take out into this beautiful plate. All right, look at that. That's a beautiful piece of beef there. Right. Ah, ha 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 ha. Life cannot be any much fairer on me. And look at those juices. Remember the juices that we did? It's just water and spices. Now it's just going to the side. I think you need to look into the pan. Look at that. Into the pan. It's beautiful. It's juicy. All those juices from the olives now are coming through. And then I'm just going to put them in with my beef. This is going to serve as the sauce for our Hasselback and our beef olive. Remember, the olive is just some beef that I tenderized by just beating it down. I added in some spices, a bit of mince, roll that up, into a tight knit ball. So you need to remove now the little pieces of string and then tighten up your plate and serve. So let me just get something to remove my strings. So I'm just removing the strings. Remember, we use the strings to tie up our beef. Put that aside, otherwise it won't be enjoyable. And then you need to taste. Things like this, you need to taste. Look, the beef is beautiful. It's well cooked through inside. Another piece of string. I'm just removing that again. And then, okay, I need to take some soup. I need to take, all those onions, the spices, they've just caramelized down. And then, this is good. This is so good. You need to try this. You definitely, easy, simple ingredients.